Hi, everybody. It's the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lindell, and on the other end of the line, one of the co-hosts of Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond, Andy Billman. How's it going, man?
Living the dream. Just another rain delay here for the Indians and Tigers, but everything's going great. 4th of July, still a little too hungover from TNT, but feeling good. Good to be running around.
I didn't see fireworks once over 4th of July. I think that's a record.
I had my kids and my mom this year, and I definitely went all American, and we just lit off pyro multiple days. It was great. No one got hurt. We didn't have any YouTube videos, but I think it's good once in a while to be like, eat red meat and drink beer and, have lemonade for the kids and light stuff on fire. So that's kind of what we did this year. It was fun.
Yeah, I've certainly got no problem with it. Just, circumstance dictated. It just didn't happen for whatever reason. And I think what I kind of came away with was like, I think that's probably hard to do. I think the degree of difficulty of missing all the fireworks is pretty high.
Yeah, it's weird. My kids aren't big into fireworks. There's great fireworks shows here in the Northeast, and they don't you just learn as a parent over a while. It's like, I'm not going to drag you if you're going to be, complaining and just forget it. So yeah, it was 2 years ago. They're sitting there, it's hot. Why are there bugs? I'm like, you know what? We're done.
All right. So let's set this up a little bit, because just for those who don't know, who in the hell is Andy Billman?
God, that's a good question.
Because I introduced you as the co-host of Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond, and that might be like the 17th most thing you're most known for.
That's true. Well, thank you. Okay, so born in Elyria, grew up in Cleveland briefly. Then my parents moved to Columbus later. Not a Buckeye fan, which is interesting. And grew up my dad, like anybody else, in that 80s period, loved sports, and that was the era of cable television, so I watched a lot of sports growing up. I learned very quickly I couldn't play sports, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to watch and analyze. So I stopped playing sports when I was a freshman in high school, went to Bishop Watterson High School in Columbus, and then really, I'll be honest, Craig, very early on knew I wanted to do sports television. Started reading all the books. At that time, you and I are the same age group. That's when the Keith Olbermann, Dan Patrick book came out. That's when all those ESPN spoofs of Hootie and the Blowfish. For people who don't know, SportsCenter was very big. For people who are millennial, SportsCenter was actually a big deal in the 90s.
People don't remember that Keith Olbermann was one of the most electrifying sports broadcasters we'd ever seen.
Well, it was wonderful. It was Trey Wingo, Kenny Mayne, Stu Scott, Rich Eisen, and then you had Patrick and Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. And really, it really was much watched television. Throw in a Charlie Steiner, a little bit of Chris Berman. That's another level too. And back in the 90s, there was a show called NFL Primetime, and boy, did Chris Berman did a wonderful job of entertaining highlights from 7 to 8 o'clock.
I have takes about Chris Berman and how much hate he takes now. It's people want to punish him because he didn't change. He revolutionized something and he kept doing the same thing till the end of his career, and he didn't change. But people totally discounted the fact that he created something.
I'm with you. I actually will double down. Dick Vitale.
But it's it's like yelling at the Rolling Stones for continuing to sound like the Rolling Stones.
I'm with you. Chris Berman made you feel like you were watching a game in a highlight package when you weren't watching the game. And what he also did is he drew in new fans. I was already part of it, but there were people who weren't sports fans who would just sit and watch him. I remember in college, I had 2 or 3 roommates who didn't watch sports, but they watched NFL Primetime because they wanted to watch Chris Berman, and they were all from Mayfield. It was so weird, but they didn't watch Browns games. That's when the Browns were still coming back. But they weren't really into football, but they loved NFL primetime. That was like appointment television. And, those were, and again, the other guy too was Vital. I thought Vital really changed how you could root and get energized for a game. And yes, you have to be bipartisan and neutral. And Vital, for the most part, was. But gosh, did he bring electricity and he brought vibe and he said things like, he's right. That was a great dunk. Holy shit, was that cool? And those are kind of things. And he kind of gave you that energy. So I'm with you, Billman and those guys. And, television's hard to judge. These things do change over time as people learn. But yeah, those two were, such a staple. So from there, I got to University of Toledo.
I was going to say, I'm a really bad podcast host. I derailed you from getting to the point and letting everybody know who you were so that we could talk about Chris Billman and Dick Vitale.
But you have to. But, that was the golden era of cable television. I'll have to say one more thing. That was also the era, too, where you started to do things where it's like, yes, I'm an Ohioan, huge Clevelander. But I watched Big East basketball because that's what you did on Monday nights if you're a sports fan in the winter. I knew Providence. I knew Goddamn God. I knew those guys. They were great. It was appointment TV. You watched Kevin Ali and all these UConn guys and Ray Allen and Iverson and, oh my gosh, you watched all these wonderful teams in the East Coast.
I forgot all about that.
That was wonderful. Monday, Big Monday, ESPN was wonderful. Then you had Super Tuesday, which was the big Big Ten matchup. And for people who don't know, I am a huge Purdue fan. My dad and a lot of his family members went to Purdue, so I'm a huge Purdue fan because of it. Purdue was, as they were today, they were wonderful in the 90s. So those were wonderful games with Knight and Katie. And then you had, even before then, Thud Judd and Heath Coates. And you had, Randy Ayers and those wonderful teams, too, in the early 90s. But, anyway, all that stuff in cable television really what blossoms generation. And what I see now, we'll put it today, the big new thing is these video games and people watching people play video games. I know my kids do it. It's fascinating, and that's kind of where this new thing's going. But that's for another podcast and lecture. But in the 90s, that's why I got here today. So I got to University of Toledo, graduated. I got lucky enough at my uncle's wedding. I met his soon-to-be brother-in-law who worked at ESPN. I said, I'm begging you, just get me an interview. I was lucky enough. I drove across the country in a little, it was like a 91 Nissan. Barely made it to Bristol, beat a snowstorm, got the interview, got hired right out of school, and I was lucky. I worked at ESPN for, do quick math, 16 years at ESPN, from 2002 to 2018. ESPN, the Sports Center, ESPY Awards. There's shows called Dream Job, Playmakers. I don't even remember Playmakers.
I remember Playmakers.
Playmakers is a wonderful show. I was a young PA doing that show. Wonderful show. People have never seen it. You really like sports dramas. Watch it. So I thought it was really a well done show. Kind of underrated.
And then the sports documentary thing just took off in the most major possible way in the last 10 years.
Oh, it was at a weird time to go down that rabbit hole. In 2007 and 8, documentaries were failing. In fact, HBO had cut their staff in half. And by 2008, documentaries had kind of almost gone away. There was a big rush in documentaries in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, but it really never went anywhere. And really, HBO was the only game in town. And then I don't know the whole ins and outs, and there's all different stories. I know there's a podcast that Connor and Bill did, but basically in the fall of 2009, 30 for 30 came about, and I was lucky enough. I was doing a job transition. I had done the ESPY Awards for 6 years, and I was at a point where I kind of knew my career was at a crossroad. I had done the ESPYs. I had really enjoyed it, but I needed something new. And John Dahl, thank God, I worked on several projects with him. He invited me in his office, and he goes, we kind of need someone who does what you do. Are you interested? And Craig, I almost said no.
Oh, my God.
Because sports documentaries weren't doing well. And I was like, oh, but John, they're not doing good. They weren't doing good. Thank God. The other job I was what I was really seriously looking at fell through, and I ended up taking a 30 for 30 job. Thank God. And then, 10 years later, here I am. Amazing.
And so
It happened that quickly.
how many of the 30 for 30s did you end up working on?
Oh gosh, a lot. For the first season, I watched. I was still an AP. I became a producer at the end of season 2. So I was producing by 2010. But in 2009, I got my start. And my first film I really had to do a lot of production on was the Reggie Miller film, Winning Time.
Okay.
That was kind of my first film. I had to do a lot of work for that. But the big film that no one knew about, and I became very friendly with Jeff and Mike Zimbalist, was this film called The Two Escobars. And they were needing a lot of help. And I kind of ended up helping them. And they go, "Do you want to watch the rough cut?" I said, "Sure." And for people who haven't seen it, I think The Two Escobars is one of the best series ever done.
Oh, it's incredible.
A wonderful, wonderful film. And it's not all in English. It's a bilingual film about soccer. Not an easy trick, but it was a wonderful film. And I was really lucky. I became very good friends with Mike and Jeff that summer. And I helped them out, and they helped me out. And I learned a lot from those guys. I really sat and learned. I mean, that's kind of the tip to anybody. Like, you can always learn stuff on the job. And that whole 2010 was a whirlwind. As I did Reggie Miller, I ended up doing a couple other films, but really The Two Escobars is really the film that I really felt like, wow, this is cool. I like this. And my job in 2010 was I had to make sure all the films went on to things like iTunes and God, what were the other platforms? I don't even remember now. But they went for all these digital plays, which, by the way, in 2010 was not really seen as the new format. So weird. That's a whole nother discussion. But in 2010, real quickly for people, in 2010, it looked like iTunes was going to take over the world. And then this little thing called Netflix stopped sending DVDs. And everything changed. Everything changed.
It's hard to even bring yourself back to the pre-streaming days now. I mean, they talk about this generation, and I'm of the generation that remembers the world before the internet, but now it's hard for me, even as somebody who grew up without the internet, it's hard for me to imagine a world without some of the second, third, and fourth generation technologies built on the internet.
It really was never. No one at the time understood. And the big problem, especially in 2010 and 11, for companies like ESPN and others, it was really hard making these digital files. It took forever. It wasn't simple. It was very high cost. So it really was clunky. And then in 2012 and 13, things really sped up. And once like anything else, once production sped up, everything changed. I mean, everything. It became roller skates. It was amazing. Like in 2010, if you would have told me, I'd be like, I think iTunes and Final Cut Pro is where everybody's going to go. And by 2012, it was everybody's on Avid and Premieres, and everybody's watching Netflix. It happened that quickly. It was so fast. So,
which is really funny too, because I remember back in those days, the video piracy was already really high, and people. So if the problem was, if you wanted a professional level to go on the iTunes store, it was really hard to make those quality of videos. But the pirates were making really nice bootlegs left and right.
It's true, and the big thing too, that to your point too, it was so costly. Like, you had to make these files, and obviously ESPN and other companies like that could eat the fees. But back then, iTunes, you would basically, I'm sure it's still a similar day, but no one watches things on iTunes anymore.
No.
But basically, back in the day, you would buy a film for like $10 or $5, and then you'd rent it. You would do something like that. But Netflix, God, once they figured it out, boy, it was game over. And it happened. Again, I will tell you, someone who lived in that industry, in 2010, Netflix was never thought of. By the end of 2012, it's like, what is this?
Well, and you go back in time and remember when they stopped they separated the DVDs from the streaming, and people were like, wait a minute, this is the worst move they could ever make. And it's like, no. That was the first fart of internet backlash culture too.
Oh, by far. And that was the point too, where, you and I didn't notice, but our kids, my kids are 12, 9, and 5. my kids started becoming the YouTube generation.
Oh yeah. I had to ban a couple of YouTube channels recently just because not because they were too vulgar, but and I don't even mind if they take in like video game content, like you were talking about watching video games, but
Sure.
some of these Minecraft hosts were bordering on reality TV, and the way that it goes from video to video to video to video, it was creating like these weird switches in my kids' brains, and they couldn't disconnect, and it was like a really bad hangover. And I finally said enough. I'll let the kids watch movies. I'll let them watch some Netflix and some TV, but there's certain channels and certain ways that YouTube is as a platform that feeds all those receptors in your brain like a drug, like smoking.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. And the big thing about YouTube, you kind of said it's ongoing and it's cheap. And
you can never finish all the content. So if you're a little bit ADD and you're a completist and you want to see everything that this guy Preston, the Minecraft host, does, like you'll never get there. You'll never get there, and you'll just keep trying.
Yeah, and that's a great example. There's another game too my boys play. Thankfully, they're not as into what's that game that everybody plays right now? The fourth game, Fortnite. And my kids, thankfully, are not in that circle, but they love this game called Roblox. They love that game.
My kids love Roblox. I don't feel so bad about that one. They don't watch people play that one, but they've started playing it on their iPads.
Oh, my kids love watching both. They're really into it.
It's very, very.
It is, and at the same time, it reminds me of my generation in the '90s when I was watching sports. That's what they're doing for video games.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They basically, like, I remember my 9-year-old son. I didn't get those forms. I didn't think it was good. But I go, what do you want for Christmas from Santa? And he goes, I really want puppets. I'm like, why do you want puppets? And I learned that some of these guys now have video games of Mario and other characters, and they're emulating those characters from these video games.
It's funny that you mention that, because one of the things that my kids wanted this year were the action figures of Minecraft. So instead of, even when they're not connected to the PS4 controllers, they're pretending to create Minecraft worlds in the playroom, which doesn't bother me. I think that's pretty cool.
No. I collected baseball cards. Why? Because I wanted to learn about baseball and I wanted to learn about football.
And I wanted every subscription to Beckett baseball, Beckett basketball. I had all those.
Oh, there was nothing better.
I was like a little stock trader.
Oh, there's nothing better when you go, you know what I got? I got a Jarid rookie card. And I'm going to look up every day.
This was worth $295 last month. It's up to $375 this month.
And you got, because I love collecting cards. And I did obviously collected all the Browns, Indians, and Cavs, but I also collected certain players. And my gosh, two of the players I collected was Cal Ripken. And I love collecting Montanas and Rices. Oh my God, I love collecting them.
Maybe my least favorite good baseball player of all time is Cal Ripken.
Yeah, as I got older, we can go to that different podcast. But gosh, I loved how he played every day. I don't know why. I loved that he played every day.
I thought that was the most overblown streak in the history of the world, and I hated him for it.
I actually will say this. I don't think it is, but here's where Cal...
He was so hateable.
Oh, yeah. We could go on and on. But plus he's in Baltimore. And Baltimore, as we all know, is a vomitous city. Lovely people.
Are they? Are they?
They are. They're lovely people. It's not their fault. They just ruined our thing.
They're a bunch of... So I'm married to a girl from Indianapolis who's a Colts fan. And the only thing worse than stealing somebody's team is being a hypocrite about it, and then answering that by stealing another team and then supporting Art Modell.
Oh, buddy,
they're the world's biggest hypocrites in the history of the universe.
Okay, I'm ready to tell the story. For people who don't remember, the second 30 for 30 film ever made was a film called The Band I Wouldn't Buy.
Yes,
and I remember I had to screen the film.
The Baltimore Colts band.
The whole film is about how the Baltimore Colts band kept alive even when the team left in the middle and moving in the middle of the night. And yes, what the Colts went through, I think it was 82 or 83. By the way, both times Ernie Accorsi is tied to both teams, the Browns and the Colts, weirdly enough, which is interesting too. And by the way, both times he left right before the damage was done. Both times he left town right before the moves happened. But anyway, so the team was in the middle of the night. And I remember people had me watch the film, and they go, "You probably connect with this." I'm like, "I don't fucking connect with anything here." I go, "No." I go, "It's wrong what they did." I go, "It doesn't make." I got in huge arguments with John Dahl, and I love John Dahl. If he ever heard this, he would understand. We used to get in huge arguments. Like, no, you're wrong. Because this is stupid. I go, this is a dumb. I go, look, I love Barry Levinson. He directed some of my favorite films, Rain Man, others. He's a wonderful filmmaker. Very talented. It's a good film. But let's be honest, what a lousy story. I mean, come on. I mean, you took our team. You stole our team. And let's not really believe Lamb today. But look, Art lied. He did a lot of bad things. He didn't understand the magnitude of the situation, and he still went bankrupt. That's it. Good night. Turn out the lights.
Yeah.
Nothing worked out. Nothing.
And that alone, thank goodness for Tony Grossi. I mean, if Tony Grossi never did anything else, helping keep Art Modell out of the Hall of Fame is enough. Is enough. Anybody who has that on their resume has done enough for me.
And by the way, again, for people who don't know, Art was hemorrhaging money. He really was. He was broke. By the time he left Cleveland, he was broke.
The only person in the world who could screw up that business.
Oh, I agree. And on top of it, he did have some things go badly, and some things didn't go right. Okay, it happens. But your answer can't be, well, it's time to not. By the way, your answer should have been on sell the team, make a lot of money back, and live comfortably. Yeah. But he couldn't do that.
He ended up selling it in phases anyway. So what were we doing?
Yeah, and that's the whole point. And that's my whole point too. Right. If you end up selling the team to Biscotti years later, what was the whole point of this? Like, what was the point?
They should have put the expansion team in Baltimore.
Oh, God. And I'll tell you this. For people who are too young, that fucking Giants-Ravens Super Bowl is one of the most fucking awful things you can ever watch.
Oh, it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, sports-wise.
Awful. Non-competitive. And by the way, I fucking hate them. The Ravens were dominant. They beat the Titans, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the hell out of the Giants.
The most hateable star maybe in the history of the NFL, and Ray Lewis.
Ugh. Yeah.
All of it is just disgusting. All right, let's not talk about that anymore.
So, did all these 30 for 30s. Everything from Bad Boys. There actually is funny tonight. This good friend of mine, Denson Gar, he's a head of ESPN Films PR. Unguarded with Chris Herron. For people who haven't watched that film. It's a wonderful film John Hawk did about how this troubled guy named Chris Herron had a lot of trouble with heroin. And it talks about his story, and it's really it's one of the more powerful stories.
By the way, I don't want to drag you off the topic, but I'm really hoping that this all these 30 for 30s are going to be available somewhere between ESPN Plus and the Disney over the air, over the whatever, not over the air, but.
Well, if you want to go down that road, it's an interesting time for the company because I don't anymore, so I can talk about it briefly. But here's the thing: it's interesting, right? So you have this period of time for people who don't know. Disney Plus is launching in September. And over the last 2 years, and it finally came agreed to, I think last year, ESPN had been buying the rights from Fox. And so they've acquired all these films, including The Simpsons, including all these other FX packages that are coming along. And it's all going to launch in, I think, September of this year. And it's a big deal. And to what you're alluding to, the other thing that people should watch is ESPN Plus has also been there. And then a part of the Fox acquisition is Disney owns now a majority shareholder of Hulu. And it'll be very interesting to see if all these things combine one day into one home. Because I have no insider knowledge, but that was what I would do. I would be housing all that there. It's going to be interesting. All these things are going to kind of string together, and there's going to be a huge. I mean, it's public knowledge. There's nothing like secretive. Huge launch for the company in September, and Disney's doing really well.
Yeah, well, and on top of it, you've got all these different people starting all these different services, but Disney is one that it's going to be one that you have to subscribe to. Everybody has Amazon Prime because of the shipping. Everyone has Netflix because it's Netflix. You can pop in and out of HBO for the most part, but everyone's going to have Disney. Yeah.
If you want let's just do it because we're already here, right? So let's talk television. There's interesting companies like you're mentioning. Amazon's going to be fine because of the shipping thing. I think we just touched on Disney because of everything I just mentioned. Disney and Bob Iger is a wonderful leader. God, is he very smart. So Disney's going to keep trucking along doing their thing. Then you got NBC Universal, who is going to start creating their own thing, and then CBS. A lot of people don't know this, but CBS has their own thing going right now. So you have all these little subsidiaries, and then you got the big question, which is about ready to come. All these rights fees are about ready to leave sports, and the big thing that is starting to make some noise and some news is it sounds like DirecTV and AT&T is in a major negotiation with the NFL to see if they'll get back the ticket. Craig, if you want to talk about something I could talk about for hours, I think that is going to be one of the biggest things in the next 18 months is to see where that thing goes.
I've been on my soapbox for probably going on 10 years now that YouTube should have bought that. Google should have they should have paid double whatever anybody else was paying, and it should have lived on YouTube for whatever it cost, because they've got more money than anybody, maybe except Apple. I don't know who has more money, Apple or Google.
Oh, or Amazon, honestly.
Or Amazon, right.
Amazon, I mean, those companies are just trucking. But to your point, I mean, Amazon's going to be in play for that. There's a new company called DAZN, The Zone. They're going to be in play for that.
Yeah, it's John Skipper's new company.
John Skipper's new company. And for people who don't know, they do a lot of boxing, and they have a big Latin audience, and they're starting to build out their portfolio now to baseball and other things. So there's a lot of that package. In sports, you always talk about who's going to get, college football playoff. That was a big package. Or who's going to get the MLB stuff. Actually, to me, I think the big package to what we were talking about 20 minutes ago is who's going to get the direct ticket package in 2.5 years. In a year and a half.
No, that's a
big
one.
Big thing.
And then, but we also, I'm hoping there's a solution to the fracturing of the really small stuff too. Like I know I'm one of maybe 500 people in the world who wants to buy a season pass for streaming BU hockey games.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to spend $200. I might spend 40 or 50. Yep. But where does it live? Who hosts it? And what, because they're trying to say, well, you can get the college hockey plan. And I'm like, no, I just want one team.
Yeah. I'll tell you the big thing, Craig, that to your point about that. I know, interesting enough, for some reason or another sport that gets a lot of ballyhoo about that is hockey's one. Another one quietly is college wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of diehard college wrestling fans out there that love that stuff. I mean, love that stuff. And that's another sport that's hard to find.
You can find it on the Big Ten Network a little bit, but you're right.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. I think obviously outside the big three being women's and men's basketball and football. Football's the king, obviously. But, once you get past those sports, like college baseball's kind of made its way. You can kind of find that stuff. But to your point, I mean, it's track and field. Unless you're the SEC or one of those networks, you're going to find that. But
there are a lot of good solutions for soccer and international soccer.
Yes, there is, and that's starting to get. I'll tell you the thing that's going to be interesting too, which I'm already observing. Which again, we don't see in the periphery because we're not fans of the sports. But the sports that actually make a lot of money outside those big sports are like cricket, rugby. They make huge numbers.
Yeah,
huge numbers. And for people who laugh or scoff at the EPL deal, oh my gosh, that is a moneymaker for NBC. I mean, that makes a lot of money. There's a lot of people that watch that stuff and really get into it. But yeah, it goes back to that whole thing. Now that football's kind of settled itself down again, And certainly in this region of the country where we're Browns fans, we all don't live in Cleveland, and I'm certainly one of them. And why do I have a big Dutch in my backyard? Because I want to watch the Browns every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And that's going to be a big level swinger in the TV viewing community, because that's where all the stuff's going, is online.
But you know what happens when all the fracturing and they try and put up firewalls so that you can watch this, but you can't watch that, and you can watch that, but you can't watch this. Piracy. And I mean, you can find an NFL stream all over Reddit. You can find them all Sunday. Yeah.
I will say this: it's been a lot harder recently.
But to my point being, they better make it easy. If they charge the right price and they make the system good. One of the big problems with the DirecTV online streaming for the longest time was it was shoddy quality. It was hard,
sloppy, very sloppy, clunky, all that stuff. And to be honest with you, college football has really improved in the last 2 years for streaming. 3 or 4 years ago, streaming college football games on ESPN, ABC was a nightmare.
Oh, it was horrible.
It was horrible. It's not
so
anymore.
Much better.
Yeah, it really has. And I'll allude to something else that it's funny. 2 years ago, it was a very different conversation, but it's flipped again. 2 years ago, the big study in sports television was people were still watching sports television, but they were watching them in bars. And bars really made a killing in 17 and 18. I think those numbers have come down slightly because you hear about all these packages you're talking about. But that's been the big outlier. Like, my brother lives in Denver. He doesn't get the DirecTV package. He goes to a Browns backers bar in Denver and watches the game. That's what he does.
I just can't dedicate that amount of time.
Oh, buddy, we have kids. My brother's single, Sally, so he's got,
there we go.
I mean, he can just ride his little scooter and beep beep, go down the road. Love it, then. That's true. But so all that stuff to say. But so back to myself. So in 2015, 16. I was 14. It's actually 14. I was thinking about this the other day. It's 14. I started getting pitched the idea of producing the film Believeland, and we had a director named Chris Billman that was on. It ended up not working out, and I directed a film very recently for the first time called The Stars Are Aligned, and I kind of put myself in there. I was like, look, I think I can do this. I'm ready for this. I've already directed one film. I know I can do this, and then the rest is history.
And Believeland, of course, I'm sure everybody listening has seen it. But that thing, like, you script these things out as much as you can and you try and storyboard it and everything else. But nobody saw the Cavs championship coming.
No. In fact, when we finished taping, we were part of the 15 finals. And I sat there in the bars with my dad and my brother watching the Cavs lose. And then we went on the streets, and that's what the first ending was for the film. The only thing I'll say about 16 that was so crazy, I mean, we're all fans, so it isn't like I was directing. Like your point, you're not storyboarding. Everything changed when Draymond Green made that kick. Everything changed. Everything changed. It was amazing. It's just one of those moments in sports. All those things in Game 5 and Game 6 and Game 7, there's so many moments. But if someone really truthfully asked me, outside of Game 7, what do you remember? The Draymond Green kick. That's when everything.
And what's really funny is that other NBA fans around the country will try and make us feel bad about the Draymond suspension.
Oh, bullshit.
And it doesn't faze me. Nothing phases me.
No. Ready for this? If Kevin Love did not have Kelly Olynyk, and if Kyrie Irving had his knee, I think the 2015 would have been champions. Would have been the Cavs. What do you think?
I think so too.
I think the Cavs would be in the worst. I really do. So for everybody out there goes all this different whining about Draymond Green. Well, Draymond Green kicked LeBron James in the balls.
The Warriors only ever beat a full strength Cavs team with Kevin Durant.
That's right. And that should never be forgotten. And what also made that so sweet was obviously the length of time and all that, but obviously the historical reference, the only team ever to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. And, it was not relive the pitiful party, but as a Cavs fan, going up against the Bulls every fucking goddamn year, and to finally beat a team like the Warriors, just forget anything. I mean, that was such a great. I was thinking about that today. It's like I really want the Browns to do well, and it's like the Indians are playing much better as of late in the last month. But honestly, like everything's okay because of 16. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
I really want the Browns to win and the Indians win, but everything's okay. I mean,
no, it was the one thing we needed to kind of reset the table. And even as mad as I was at the Indians offseason this year and what I predict to be the eventual outcome with Francisco Lindor, it's all okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, our owner is quoted as much as saying he's not going to be here much longer. So
yeah,
I think we can fairly say it's the beginning of the end.
I suggested recently on Twitter that we ought to break out the Bobby Bonilla style deal to keep Francisco Lindor. I don't care if I don't care if they pay him until 2045.
Yeah, so true. I think what's going to be interesting for the Tribe, which is the obvious thing. I mean, the Cavs, I think we can all discuss. I mean, just quickly on the Cavs, I am excited about John Beilein. I think that is such a great fit. I think that's going to be cool. I think the Cavs will be a lot of fun. They're not going to be as good, obviously, as these other teams, but it'll be fun. But the Indians, they're in such an interesting parallel because you said it. Francisco Lindor is a transition. Well, that's not the proper word, but he's one of those top 5, 6 players in the game. And the Indians have him. And I think sometimes we forget that. He's a wonderful player. He is a wonderful player, and it's probably pretty much known he's not going to be here much longer.
And one of the greatest dudes too. He's not just stats. He's not just ability.
Yes. I mean, I would hope the Indians would do anything they can to keep him, but I mean, again, you just got to go by the quotes, and it doesn't sound like it. So if I were the Indians, here's the conclusion I came to, and this would be something Jared and I will talk more about on Friday. I just think the Indians now finally at a point, from what I've seen, I think they can make the playoffs. Sure. I think the Twins are the better team right now. I hate saying that, but I really do. I think the Twins are the better team.
Yeah, but they are.
They are. They really are. After watching them play, I think it's fair to say that. And they outpitched them and outhit them, and I hate saying that, but I really believe it. So what's going to be interesting for the Indians is if they get a deal, and I think Brad Hand's one, and the other one is Bauer. But I think Bauer is more easier because I've been hearing a lot about the Yankees. You know, if the Yankees give you Clint Frazier and another prospect or two, I got to be honest, Craig, that's a really hard deal to turn down.
Well, for a guy who says he's going to go for top dollar on short
Correct.
deals.
That's my point. Correct. Correct. And honestly, seeing what's behind the Indians, like my whole thing is like, hey, if the Indians, the way they're built, it's really for next year. You do trade Trevor Bauer. You probably do trade Brad Hand, and then you make one big run with Francisco Lindor next year.
See, I disagree on Brad Hand. I listen to offers, but they're gonna have to throw in the kitchen sink for me to let go of Brad Hand.
I've learned this over the years, and I do like Brad Hand a lot. I think relievers are fickle.
I agree with you.
If you can get a high rate for a left-handed closer, I think you pull the trigger.
Yeah, I agree, but it's got to be a high rate. I'm not just like.
Oh yeah,
it's
and by
not
the way,
fire
same
sale
with Bauer.
time.
By the way, it's same for Bauer.
Yep.
You don't have to trade Bauer or Brad Hand. And by the way, the Indians are right in the wild card hunt throughout the rest of the year. They really are. And then you got this whole back thing too about Kluber and the Cookie Carrasco story too.
But this is what if we learn nothing from the Cavaliers, and you know they just waived J.R. Smith, and they're still paying Tristan Thompson, but you can't trade or make any deal with a guy that you don't have control over. And the Indians seem to never learn that lesson. Like, yes, trade Bauer for the right price, and maybe even trade Brad Hand for the right price, but even if he costs $50 million a year, if you can afford 1 year of Francisco Lindor, you sign him to that deal. You can always trade him. You can always trade that deal, but you can never trade Francisco Lindor unless you sign him to that 10-year, $400 million deal or whatever it is.
I echo everything you just say, more. I would do whatever it takes to keep Frank Kingtown. That is my new storyline probably for the rest of the next year and a half.
And that doesn't mean that you have to pay all $400 million of his contract.
No, you don't. And in fact, that's why too, Craig. I think the interesting thing, there's so many fascinating things about the Indians because, Jeffrey Rodriguez, he was pitching pretty well before he got hurt.
Yep.
You've seen Plesac tonight; he's pretty good. They're young. Bieber's coming on strong. Clevenger, Kluber's coming back. Cookie, the Bauer thing is kind of becoming, well, you're not there yet. I think this year trading Bauer hurts you. I will say, I think trading Bauer in the offseason is probably going to become a priority.
Yeah.
Because I think you're stacked with pitching and you need another bat. You really do. Now, Brad Hand, I totally get it, and you're right. And by the way, that guy in a big spot I trust. I really like Brad Hand a lot. But I do understand, too, if you're trying to restack, that's how things go. It's going to be interesting to see what the Indians do. And I think the other thing that's going to play a big part of this, what I was just alluding to, is when's Jeffrey Rodriguez coming back? Is he going to be in the bullpen? And then what's going to happen with Kluber? And then, I think,
Don't you do it. Don't do it.
No, I'm not saying.
Don't bring up Danny Salazar's name.
No, you don't. Do you know my thoughts on him? No. No. Danny who? Look, I like you, Danny, if you're listening, but come on. How I know you're pitching Akron. No. That's silly. Cookie Carrasco is going to be a great story, and it's becoming a wonderful story in Cleveland.
He's going to pitch this year in the playoffs, and he's going to win a meaningful game for them. It's going to be my favorite moment of the year.
Craig, I feel the same way you do. So I think, Brad Hand, I agree with you. And Trevor, and by the way,
Joe Buck is going to make opposing fans sick with all the talk about Cookie Carrasco.
Boys, he becomes sour grapes in announcing world. No one likes him anymore. It's amazing. And I don't say I do like. I'm indifferent. I think he's fine.
I defend him. I think he's fine. And I just, I hate Kyle Schwarber to this day. But
he's annoying. But he's a Hoosier, and I'm a Purdue fan. He's annoying.
But he's gonna really drive opposing fans crazy when he talks about Cookie Carrasco in the playoffs, and that's fine because it's our guy.
Oh, by the way, good. I think this year, the one thing I'm hoping that did not happen last year is the Indians play relaxed, because in my opinion, they really are playing house money throughout the rest of the year. Because the expectations have been lower to a point. It's like, hey, make the playoffs, hope we win a game or two, and usually when the Indians are like that, Craig, they usually do pretty well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's usually when the spotlight is on is when the Indians really – this has been since the 90s.
They shrink under the weight of expectations.
They really do. I was trying to explain to my son the other night. I mean, God, 16 sucked. I mean, let's not even go there. But I'll tell you, a close second outside of 97 second. Third, I'll tell you, that fucking 96 sucked. That was awful.
I got to tell you, for me – 97 was actually worse than 2016 because
I can see why.
I was a freshman at Boston U, and I was all by myself. Like there were no other Cleveland fans there. And so I was being consoled by Red Sox and Yankees fans.
And that's before the Red Sox won, but still, it's like, you got the Celtics. Shut up.
It just wasn't fun.
No. That night, I had to work at Bob Evans, so I missed the first 3 or 4 innings. Such a silly tale. I was a senior in high school.
That's a whole different podcast. I can't wait to talk about the time you worked at your Bob Evans.
Oh God! There are so many stories about Bob Evans. I worked at a Bob Evans truck stop.
When was the last time you ate at Bob Evans?
Oh, a long time. Their biscuits are wonderful. I won't give away the trade secret, but they are wonderful. And I'm gluten-free now, so I can never eat them again. But they are wonderful. They taste really good. But, oh, my God, I can tell you so many stories about that place. So, yeah, 97 was rough. But 96 is a forgotten bad loss. That was a shocking defeat to the Orioles.
Oh, it was brutal.
It was awful. It was awful. Like, 17 hurt a lot, losing to the Yankees. I'm being truthful. I thought 96 was worse. That was a kick in the teeth. Kick in the teeth. Because we lost. We knew we were losing Albert Bell. We kind of knew this all built from the year before.
But the problem is, in hindsight, as painful as it was sandwiched between World Series appearances.
Yes. Well, and I'll tell you what, the salt, there's no Browns. And it really made it for just a terrible. I tell people all the time, I watch the NFL, but those were the foggiest years, 96, 97, 98. I know the Packers won a couple. I don't even, it's just foggy years.
No, this is, and you said you're not an Ohio State fan. This is why I'm an Ohio State fan, because I needed a football team to glom onto. And Boston U didn't have a football team. They canceled our 1AA program my freshman year.
Oh God.
So I became a Buckeye fan, and later now I've said it on this podcast before. I feel a little bit weird about being a Buckeyes fan now, because I know people who like went to the school, and I don't want to be one of those Walmart Buckeye fans.
So
I like them and I like watching them, but I don't like. I would never go, yeah, I'm a huge Buckeye fan.
No, I understand. Oh well, again, I
stay in my lane, Andy.
I like this. This is good. So for people who also don't know about me, my mom's side of the family all went to Notre Dame. So I am a huge Notre Dame football fan.
Yuck.
I know. I love Tony Rice. I love Catholic convicts. I love everything. So the big thing.
Brady Quinn.
Oh my gosh. Clausen. What's that guy's name? Jeff, the pitcher now. Forget his name. I was going to say
Jeff Samardzija.
Jeff Samardzija. Charlie Weiss. Bob Davey losing a big game. Oh, so wonderful years.
I once interviewed Lou Holtz on this podcast.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was great.
Yes, I had to work with Coach Holtz quite a bit. I have many autographed things from Lou Holtz. Growing up as an '80s Notre Dame football, I do not cheer for the Irish basketball team at all. I'm a total diehard Purdue fan. If anybody ever wants to tweak me, text me or tweet me after a Purdue loss. I will jump off a bridge just like I would if Browns or Indians or Cavs lost. I live and die with Purdue basketball, and as I do football with Notre Dame. But no, I grew up as a Notre Dame fan, so the big deal in the '90s was Notre Dame started playing Ohio State again. And so it was a big game. And I somehow, with my friend Mike Brake, we scored tickets to the Notre Dame Ohio State game. Craig's 30-yard line, first row.
Oh, my God.
We had wonderful seats. These two ladies had no idea. We were in high school. We bought tickets for like $40. Oh, it was unbelievable. That was the reminder. And again, some of my best friends in life are Buckeye fans. I grew up in Columbus in the latter half of my year. Boy, are Ohio State fans really intense. That was Eddie George ran all over the Irish. All over. I had grown men in my face. I was 16. I was like, okay, you got me. You're yelling at a 16-year-old. Dude, good job. Good job. And my friend, who was a huge Ohio State fan, at one point, he ended up playing professional football for the St. Louis Rams. He at one point had to get in between a guy. He basically told him, I'm going to have to knock you out if you talk to him again to my friend. Because I seriously sat there at one point and go, look, it's over. Our coach has got a neck brace on. This guy, Eddie something, is very good. Okay, we get it. We're going home. But yes, grew up as a huge Irish fan. Huge Irish fan. By the way, since that time, the Irish never beat the Buckeyes. They always get stomped. It's very heartbreaking. Every year.
And such is life in college football. We are over the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
This
we
has
didn't
been.
Talk Browns.
I know.
We didn't talk Browns.
We're saving it. We're saving it.
Oh yeah, we will save it. But I think here's how I want to end. If you were the Indians and you got an opportunity to get Clint Frazier back, who has played in a good handful of Major League games and has proven he can hit, would you take that for Trevor Bauer and a couple other prospects?
I think so.
I think so too.
I usually lean on other people in and around waiting for next year when it comes to prospects, but Clint Frazier is kind of a known quantity, and it's one of these things. Like if the Indians take him back, you just have to trust him.
Look, you said it perfectly. It's a guy you know, and it's a guy this year who's played 30+ games at a Major League level, and he's hit at the biggest level with the Yankees.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting. From everything I'm hearing, the Yankees don't want to give up Clint Frazier, which I don't blame them.
Well, and how well could he play for the Indians if he was allowed to bring back his like longer hair and his facial hair and stuff?
Oh,
if they didn't crush his soul in his spirit by taking away his liberty.
I'm telling you, so you're hitting everything I'm thinking. I think Clint Frazier would thrive in Cleveland. I think he'd become a fan favorite so quickly.
Oh, it'd be amazing. I mean, and he would be what, stealing at bats from Naquin?
Naquin. Well, I think, it's interesting now.
Or Mercado.
Naquin's Mercado hit another home run again tonight. The interesting thing is that Jake, and I got to be fair, I've been very hard on Jake Bauers. Jake Bauers has really played well lately.
Yes.
He's playing much better, so to be fair to him, in Luplo. But that's what you want, and that's where the Indians are missing. They need a player like Frazier in there to push the lineup. I've started to learn that in baseball years ago. It's good to have people like, we're going to sit one of the good guys. No, that's what you want.
Yep.
You want to be able to guys to come off the bench and hit a big spot. And clearly the Indians are one short. The only thing I would say about Naquin, and I know there's a lot of people who are all over the map on Naquin. I actually am pro Naquin. I will say this thing about getting out of cars and always injured, you got to stay healthy, buddy.
So I'm very much on Naquin the same way I used to be about Casey Blake. Like,
no, that's a good comparison.
He's fine. He's fine, and if he's not fine, it's their fault for not replacing him. But don't get mad at him. Like, trashing him makes no sense. He wants to be the best player in the league.
Yeah, I was going to say, and by the way, you're right. I do like Tyler a lot. I like his energy. I like his fire. For people who don't know, he's a Texas A&M kid. So he's got a lot of that Southern spunk. The one thing, too, about Naquin that I get reminded by, Casey Blake's a good example. I really get reminded of Lonnie Chisenhall. When Lonnie was healthy, Lonnie hit.
And people were mad at Lonnie because he didn't become an all-star. And it's like, that's not his fault. He was never supposed to be an all-star.
No, he wasn't. And by the way,
he overachieved. You should be happy.
And by the way, that kid in big spots got big hits in 16. My
really
God.
Did.
Lonnie got so many big. I'll tell you what, people who want to misremember, Brandon Geyer and Lonnie Chisenhall had some of the biggest hits in the 16 playoff run. Huge hits.
Yeah.
I mean, huge hits. But Casey Blake's not a good comparison, but I just think that's going to be the thing to talk about. And, I think that brown and orange thing is going to start coming on soon. And look, we'll go in that next time we talk. Yeah. But that is going to, one last thing. That is the big national thing again, which is so cool for Cleveland and being a Cleveland sports fan. We really didn't take a breath. As soon as LeBron left, Baker took the mantle, and it is amazing. Amazing. I mean, the Browns are going to be one. It's not even a question. I can tell you as someone who lives in the Northeast, they are the talk of the NFL. They're going to be really
thanks to
watched.
Baker and Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be, look, this is the first, okay, I keep saying last thing. The big thing, I can't wait to go to a game. I can't wait to go to a game. And I know I'm going to overpay, and I know I'm going to have to pay for all that other crap.
I think we're going to go to an away game.
I think that would be smart. I'll tell you the thing I've been looking at. My son Cameron turns 10 right around the time the Pats play the Browns. I really want to take him. I think I want to go.
That's awesome.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. And again, like, that is the thing. It's been such a long time for this. And there's going to be highs and lows. There always are. But just the anticipation, I got to be honest, Craig, it's probably been since, probably since they've come back. But they just came back. We knew we weren't good. So this is probably that kind of feeling since the early 90s. Gosh, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a real long time. Andy, this has been a blast. Let's do it again sometime. Tell everybody where they can find your podcast. I'll have a link in the notes and everything. But and Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond, where can they find it?
You can go to andyandjarid.net or clevelandandbeyond.net, but more importantly, or .com, but more importantly, anybody can go on WFNY anytime and click on the podcast link.
That's
and
right.
Click on our link. And you can listen to them anytime you want. And then if you want to follow me, I'm AJBill79 on Twitter, and Jared's Jared Watson. And yes, again, and for people who don't know, for how much I love Cleveland sports, that's my number one. My number two vice is college football. I love college football. So it is one of my favorite times of year is coming up. getting big magazines I shouldn't be paying for and reading them.
Oh, so, that's awesome. We'll do it again. We'll talk college football. We'll talk Browns, and we'll do some crossover podcasts. I'm excited to have you guys part of Waiting for Next Year.
Yeah, we're excited too, and it's going to be a great, fun fall. And thanks for having me on, Craig.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.